What's going on, everybody? This is Lady Luck here, and we are finally getting to this video. You guys see the title: The Egregious and Disgusting Allegations Against He Who Will Not Be Named. I put his name in the title, and it is the only time I'm going to type his name, but we all see who it is. And this video is long overdue. I have gone over the lawsuit for Fania Dukes. Shout out to her. Um, and to all other survivors out there that have been, plagued and victimized with these similar or same types of allegations. And it is not an easy journey where, you're put in a situation you're not even aware you're in, and then you speak out. And in Fania Duke's case, she was fired because of it by an imbecile that the village of Dolton in Thornton Township voted out. How could anyone support super stupid or justify her dumbass actions by terminating someone who brought forth allegations, and not just Fania Dukes bringing forth the allegations, a sworn commission police officer? So I have already spoken my piece about my thoughts and feelings on the officer and how he conducted himself, especially while in Vegas. I don't even know why they were there. Okay. I don't agree that they should have went. But at the end of the day, as a police officer, having been sworn to uphold, and made an oath to the United States Constitution and, of course, to the Constitution up there in the state of Illinois, Officer Miles should have reported what he saw the night he saw it. So I've already fussed at him through the videos, several videos. And my thoughts and opinions of how he handled that situation will not change. Many of you will disagree. It's okay, but it won't change. He should have reported it, and he should have done more. However, super stupid. And I said in my most recent live stream that it was precarious, just how she handled this, and then wanted to go out of her way to try to keep he who will not be named from even responding to the allegations in the public view, and tried to keep him silent. So, of course, my theory is that I believe that Officer Mouse was not the only one who was contacted that night by he who will not be named. It's my theory that Super Stupid wanted to prevent he who will not be named from speaking out because there's a chance that he may have contacted her. That is my theory. Otherwise, I can't understand her justification for wanting to protect someone that she otherwise would not have profited or benefited anything from. As my understanding, she didn't even like his guts to begin with. She couldn't stand him. They hated each other. Now they're besties. It was disgusting. So, being that we are going to address the lawsuit, I think it will be befitting to start off with just the video of the audio that was obtained, that was originally shown on, I first saw it on Jedediah's live stream, and I am using Minion with Opinions video of that recording. So it is on Minion with Opinions channel, but it's a clip of Jedediah, and I think he gave permission to YouTubers to, be able to use that clip. Um, and this is the audio, allegedly, of he who will not be named when he contacted Officer Mouse, to which Officer Mouse reinforced and reinstated in the lawsuit complaint that we're going to go over after this. And then we're going to take a look at a second complaint that was filed against him from um, a second survivor, Aisha Gant. So we're going to take a look at those cases in this video. You guys, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you're enjoying the content here coming out of the Lady Luck Club. You guys know I bring forth nothing but court documents and just good old fashioned information and commentary. Like I said, my opinions are debatable and many will not always agree, but facts are facts and laws are laws. And we don't debate that. And if you want to debate it, you can, but I'm not willing to go to that alternate reality where your mind is. So there's certain things that are just solid, known facts and evidence that are indisputable. All right. So we're gonna check out this audio. I'm going to play as much as I can. It is disturbing. So please don't let kids watch this. And if this is going to trigger any emotions or feelings, um, I would advise you to probably skip this part of the video and get to the part where I starts talking about the actual lawsuit itself. But I just want this to kind of start off and kick off the lawsuit itself to have an understanding of her complaint. So let's get to it.
That motherfucker ain't like it look like, man. Like motherfucker been out fucking around, dude. Man, that motherfucker tell you, motherfucker, man, that motherfucker got some structure. You can tell the motherfucker been fucking him, but ain't no motherfucker been tearing that off. Put it on the. Yeah, that motherfucking mad. I'm trying. Still motherfucker. Damn. Yeah, that motherfucker. Right on FaceTime. FaceTime. Right on FaceTime. Yeah, I got FaceTime. You got FaceTime? Yeah, I got FaceTime. Right on FaceTime. Yeah, that motherfucking mad. I'm trying. Still motherfucker. Damn.
Therapy has always been such.
So I'm just gonna pause it. I think that's enough to, you know, um, kind of start off one. And honestly, it's so disturbing and disgusting. It is hard to listen to, but you know, like I've stated before, I'm more irritated at the ease and the comfort to which he who will not be named had and his willingness to call a police officer. And you hear this dialogue here where the police officer is not saying anything along the lines of, listen, I'm not comfortable doing FaceTime with you unless he recorded the video. What otherwise, why would you even suggest that? So, unless there is a video, like a FaceTime video recording, I don't even see why he would want to go that far with this ridiculous, pathetic, and disgusting call. And, you guys can see the frustration in this, and how this was handled just to start. So, let's get to this lawsuit here. And then we're going to get to the second victim's case. And this is of Fania Dukes and Byron Miles, that was originally filed back on April 8th of 2024 with Cook County Circuit Court. And this is of course, civil procedure. She filed it against Super Stupid, Dolton Township, Village of Dolton. There was a jury trial demand here. I'm going to zoom in so that everybody can kind of see. And this is available online. It's public information here. There was an amendment to this, I believe. And then, of course, there's been at least, one hearing that I know of so far that took place back in February where he who will not be named didn't even show up. And, of course, it begs the question, why would an alleged innocent man not want to go to court and prove his innocence? I mean, what the hell are you running from? But they pulled the stunt of getting this incompetent attorney Solomon to go in and say that, he's representing him, adding yet another attorney on the record, prolonging the case. Typically, when that happens and you have a new attorney that does an entry or of appearance on your case, the first thing they do is ask for an extension to have time to look over the case and, you know, the exhibits, to be able to talk to their client, maybe gather witnesses, those types of things. And then they can determine what to do from there. Exchange discovery, you know. So oftentimes the judge will grant that, motion for continuance. But it is obvious when it's done as a stall tactic. And then you don't show up for court, but you're sitting here talking about you're innocent, you didn't do anything wrong, and you're not going to step down as a trustee. You all understand why I call that bullshit. So hopefully understanding in the process and what they did and why they did it gives better insight on why he who will not be named is full of shit. And then they want to say he's not going to step down because of criminal charges not being filed when you have a civil procedure that could probably hurt even more. Because if you get a judgment granted against you, you moron, he who will not be named, you're going to have to pay for that. Oh, yes. So we're going to go through this. You guys make sure you hit the like button once again. Thank you all so much for the support of the previous video that I did on Keith McNugget Price. That video is doing very well, and I appreciate you all for the views, the support, the likes. That goes a long way. Hate my guts or not, court documents are what they are, and nothing but the facts and evidence. And this is information that anyone can research and pull up for themselves. Just a Google search. Just a simple Google search. All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to make myself small, make that big. And this is case number 2024, L as in love, 003789. And then you have both plaintiffs, Fania Dukes and Byron Miles, versus Village of Dolton, Thornton Township, he who will not be named, and Super Stupid. With a jury trial demand, now comes Fania Dukes and Byron Miles collectively buying through their undersigned counsel and for their complaints against the Village of Dolton, Thornton Township, and the mayor previously, old mayor, ex-mayor, thank God, states as follows. Parties on or about May 26, 2023. Dukes was an administrative assistant for the Village of Dolton and Thornton Township. Miles was a law enforcement officer for the Village of Dolton assigned to a specific duty to protect the former mayor and former supervisor, Super Stupid. No, I'm not saying her name. Dukes was paid a salary by Thornton, and she was paid hourly by Dolton. Miles was a salaried law enforcement officer. He will not be named, was and is a trustee of Dolton, the Las Vegas conference. So this is going to go into a breakdown. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I've done a deep dive on this lawsuit previously. What I want to do is just kind of read the background complaint and facts, what a statement of claim, and then go through each count. And then that way, just for the sake of brevity, move on to the next lawsuit, so you guys can kind of see, some of the similarities in the complaints and the allegations itself. So prior to May 26, 23, former mayor was advised Dolton and Thornton that she was going to be attending a conference in Las Vegas with various employees from Dolton and Thornton. Why, I don't know. He had arranged for an entourage of 13 people to join her from Dolton and Thornton at the conference. They included the trustee, 2 members of her security detail, 2 administrative assistants of former mayor, the village engineer, why, 2 trustees from Thornton, a photographer, and some others. Who's the photographer then? Wasn't Nate Fields a photographer over there in Thornton? Correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm genuinely asking because I do recall him being terminated when she, had that midnight run to become supervisor that the trustees should have never ever done. Yeah, I will never get over that. All right. On info and belief, Thornton purchased the airfares for many, if not all, of former mayor's invitees, and it's on credit cards. Credit cards that Robert Hunt is in trouble with, and Keith Freeman. I'm so glad he was fired. Um, Officer Miles, as a member of the former mayor's security detail, was ordered to attend the out of state conference along with another officer on the detail during the relevant time frame. How many security detail officers on this trip? So far, I'm counting two. It says yes, two members of Super Stupid Security Detail, two admin assistants. I don't know why you need two admin assistants there. The village engineer, God knows why, and two trustees, a photographer, and some others. So who knows how many others are there? But allegedly, they were supposed to be employees of either village of Dolton or Thornton Township. And I think the credit card statements actually will have all of the employees listed because airfares were purchased for each of the individuals traveling to Las Vegas. And these are round trip tickets that were very expensive. I don't think one was priced below $500. Not one. So let's see here. He was okay. So Officer Mars, being a member of the security detail, was ordered to attend the out-of-state conference along with another officer on the detail during the relevant time frame. Dukes was one of the assistants who also traveled to Las Vegas. Yeah, if y'all don't see me say her name or he who will not be named, I just it's implied. Follow along with me as I read it. I can't say their names. On the evening of the last day of the conference before returning to Chicago, May 26, 23, Dukes and Miles attended a dinner with almost all of the members of her entourage, and that being Super Super. After the dinner, Dukes went out with the trustee. Dukes believed she knew Holmes well. Oh, God. The trustee well, and thought of him as an uncle. And that is something she said in her interview with Regina Waldrop. Shout out to her. And then, of course, you know, um, in a couple interviews she did with some YouTubers that was able to give her a platform, which I am hoping to be able to do the same. I would love to have her on here in the Lady Luck Club. Dear Woke Christian and I, you know, excited at the opportunity to be able to interview her. So hopefully I can get in touch with her. I'm still trying. Y'all have to bear with me because I work a regular day job and I have kids. So I still want to do this interview with her. Um, so the officer believed that Dukes knew he would not be named well, thought of him as an uncle. He was significantly older and he's gross. At some point during the evening, Duke started to feel disoriented, feeling different than what one would experience with alcohol. And she advised he will not be named of the same. So she told him she wasn't, she was feeling weird and disoriented. Um, and it's my understanding that it was just the two of them. Now, here's a question: where did they go? Like, what did they go to a restaurant and had drinks, or just a bar and had drinks? After dinner. So obviously, they went to some sort of spot where they can just get drinks, I guess. And of course, she felt different than she would experience with alcohol. And I mean, you know, most people know their body. They know certain things that will hit them differently. You know, especially if you've had alcohol at least once in your life or maybe twice. You kind of gauge on how that alcohol would affect you, and you can tell when it's not the normal symptoms you would feel from having an alcoholic beverage, especially if she only had one. I haven't came across anything where she was like completely inebriated or just drunk. So if she only had one drink and it just hit differently like that, then that would be an indication that was something added to the drink that enhances the effects that alcohol already has on the body. So enough alcohol will get you to the point where you feel disoriented and, you know, spaced out or whatnot. But that typically doesn't happen with one drink. It just doesn't. Um, so I just, wow, man, that must have been scary. Dukes recalls feeling extremely lightheaded, as if the ground was moving, and from that point, she blacked out and did not recall anything else until the morning. Nasty man's call. That same evening, Officer Miles received a call from him on his cell phone. Officer Miles knew trustee through his dealings with the board of trustees while on Dum Dum's detail, but he had no outside personal relationship with this person. Nasty man. All home. God, nasty man. Nasty man. Yeah, this is so gross and disturbing. How did she get back to the room if she blacked out? Where are the cameras at? Okay, let me keep going. Ah, Jesus. All right. So the officer knew he would not be named through his dealings. He was, of course, on the board of trustees, and the officer was a part of Dum Dum's detail, but he had no outside personal relationship with him. So he would not be named began describing a host of his exploits from the trip, many of an S nature to Officer Miles. Officer Miles did not invite the conversation and had never been involved in a conversation with Nancy Men where such issues had been raised previously. Officer Miles believed that Nancy Man may have been intoxicated. Wow. He didn't sound intoxicated in that video we just watched. And I mean, like a teenager just kind of losing his V card for the first time. Just silly nonsense. No respect at all. At some point during his rant, Nasty Man made reference to him engaging in S activities with a Dalton Thornton employee, Dukes, and there was some suggestion that Dukes may not have had the ability to consent and or did not provide consent. More of a reason why I keep saying that this officer should have put him on hold, threw on some sweats, grabbed his badge, gun, called Las Vegas PD on a separate phone, and then when he came back on the line, should have been standing outside of Nasty Man's hotel door. Because if you know something's not right, then go with that gut feeling. It's just not right. At the very least, you end up wrong and then everything's cleared. But at least you did something. So he didn't he will not be named, did not sound inebriated or intoxicated. I don't agree with that. And honestly, that's kind of speculative. I don't see how. No, because that's gonna come up in court. So he'll get cross examined on that. That's more speculative in his opinion, but he did not sound inebriated or intoxicated in that call. All right, so Officer Miles, as a law enforcement officer, began to record the call at that juncture and asked he will not be named to repeat himself on a number of points. Um, he then asked Officer Miles if he had an iPhone. Officer Miles indicated that he did. And these statements here are just facts that you can also hear in that audio call as well. Um, no name then FaceTimed Officer Miles. Officer Miles. So where's the FaceTime video? If that was already recording. If you all read this here, it says he began to record the call at that juncture before they started the FaceTime. So did he stop recording when it went FaceTime? Where is the actual visual video? By this logic and the actual order of events, it says clearly that he started recording the call while he was still speaking with him verbally. So where's that video? Officer Miles could see that No Name had his shirt off and appeared to have exerted himself. Like he, running around riding bikes and dumb shit. No Name then panned the camera toward a bed where Officer Miles could see a woman, Miss Dukes, who was partially undressed. So there is a video camera. Are they gonna have they had someone look over this? I mean, visually, you see the person in the video, and he's the one that allegedly initiated this call to the officer. And then he decides to do FaceTime, then it would be hard for No Name to deny that he is that person in the video. So where's the video again? This is insane. All right. No name panned the camera toward the bed where Officer Miles could see a woman, Miss Dukes, who was partially undressed. No name then moved the camera to various private areas of Miss Duke's body, displaying them on screen, and at times moving or removing articles of clothing as he transmitted the images. For fuck's sake. I told y'all this is hard for me to read. It really is. But I'm gonna keep going. Um this is 19 pages. I'm definitely not gonna read all of it, but I definitely want to get in the background stuff. So Officer Miles could not tell at that stage whether Miss Dukes had consented or not, or was capable of the same, and requested that no name terminate the transmission. Why? You at the very least keep recording for evidence. The longer you record it, the more evidence you have, and the stronger your statement, your testimony will be. Oh, man. Okay. Following day, when Dukes woke up, she found she was in that No Name's hotel room, fully dressed. She was embarrassed as she believed she had blacked out and could not recall the night's events. She was disoriented and could not find many of her belongings, such as her wallet. Physically, she was experiencing some discomfort, but she attributed it to her mistress, as she did not believe No Name would have engaged in any inappropriate activity, and she never had any romantic or physical interest in No Name. I mean, my God, who would? He's gross. After realizing she did not have her identification, she grew concerned she would not be permitted to travel. Ms. Dukes contacted Officer Miles in some distress and recounted as much as she could of the situation and her dilemma. She advised Officer Miles where she woke up and that she could not find her wallet. She was concerned that she would not be permitted to travel back to Chicago without her ID, which is true. I mean, you're talking about a flight that was inappropriately paid by tax dollars. Yeah, you're going to be stuck out there if you can't show your ID to get on a plane. Why would that even be missing? Is my question. And if there were two, and I'm gonna keep going after this without trying to stop, but this is just things that I'm thinking of as I read this. If there were two security detail officers there, my question now would be, what made her go to Officer Miles but not the other one? That's kind of unusual. Like, I would have went to both. I need both of y'all to help me find my wallet. If anything else, and I'm feeling weird about waking up in this man's hotel room. But I'm just curious to know, why would she tell Officer Miles this and not the other officer that was there? Because it was two of them now. Or not tell both. So I don't think I came across the name of the other officer. Let's keep going. Officer Miles assisted in trying to help Miss Dukes with her ID situation, but she relayed nothing more about her knowledge of any actions with No Name. Dukes reports the trustee's conduct to Dum Dum. Shortly after returning to Dolton, Officer Miles continued to serve in his role as a member of her security detail. At some point during that time, No Name was in communication with Officer Miles, and again, No Name made reference to his exploits in Las Vegas. No Name further advised Officer Miles at that time that he had unprotected S with Miss Dukes while in Las Vegas. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it just never ceases to amaze me when I read this. Yeah, man, come on. Unprotected. She could have been literally introduced to a myriad of venereal diseases here. My goodness. No Name already looks like a walking gonorrhea. Just gross. Based on his prior conversation with Miss Dukes, Officer Miles suspected Miss Dukes was unaware that No Name had engaged in unprotected sex with her. He subsequently reached out to Miss Dukes and advised her that she could get medical care if she was still not feeling well, and that he had information he needed to provide to her. I think it should have been just kind of a given. if you're gonna tell her what happened, to maybe still say, you know what, I'm gonna take you to the hospital, and on the way there, I want you to get some lab work done to test every STD you can think of, get an ARC done, and get examined. That would not have been an option. I would have flat out said, nope, Vanille, we're going to the hospital. And then on the way there, I got something to tell you. And that'll justify why I'm taking you without your permission. Because this is insane. Oh man. Miss Dukes was in significant distress upon hearing this info and said she would seek medical attention. Officer Miles met her shortly thereafter and advised her of the facts related to him by no name. Miss Dukes was in severe emotional distress as a result, said she needed to speak with Dum Dum. Within a very short period of time, Ms. Dukes requested a meeting with her boss. Officer Miles is a member of Dum Dum's security detail, drove her to 14121 MLK Drive, an old bank and campaign office of Dum Dum, to meet with Miss Dukes. Officer Miles secured the location, walking through it, and then brought uh, little girl into the office. No one else was in attendance except little girl, Officer Miles, and Miss Dukes. Dukes advised him, little girl, that while in Las Vegas, she had been out with No Name that evening before they came back to Chicago. She indicated that she believed No Name gave her something to drink, and that shortly thereafter, she became very unsteady and lost her sense of balance. So her vertigo was off. Duke said she had no recollection of anything that occurred thereafter until she awoke in No Name's room the next morning. She indicated she would never have agreed to relations with No Name as he is substantially older than she was, and she thought of him as an uncle. Was it that raises the question as to whether he was allegedly grooming here, especially if he built a rapport with her to try to come off like an uncle, like a relative. And let's not pretend as if relatives can't take advantage of someone in their own family. But the fact that that was the rapport that they had, and out of nowhere, he just does this. It brings to question whether or not there was possibly some grooming here. So, right after, where am I? This is mind boggling. Okay, so after hearing the Miss Duke's complaint and factual retelling, uh, Dum Dum asked Officer Miles what he knew about what Miss Dukes was suggesting. She didn't suggest it, she said it flat out. Officer Miles proceeded to describe what he witnessed during the call with No Name and advised that he had a recording of a portion of the communication. He relayed all info he had to little girl surrounding No Name communications and what he had told Miss Dukes. So little girl reacted in shock, because fake and all, and narcissism, and immediately questioned Officer Miles as to why No Name would have called him. The same thing I wonder about No Name possibly calling little girl. Because why go through all this for one person? I mean, if anything, if she really wanted to have some sort of a stealthy maneuver, she could have got rid of No Name and then probably had a chance of actually getting someone in through a special election that may have been more neutral or at least friendly towards what she wanted. But no, too much to ask for. Like he's just somehow not replaceable. God. Um, Officer Miles indicated that he did not know why No Name called him other than to brag. Ms. Dukes was in significant distress following Officer Miles' recitation of what he witnessed. Little girl then advised Dukes that if the info got out, little girl would be ruined and all of the work she had done would be lost. Yeah, because she's not smart enough to think, you know what, let me just get rid of him, get rid of No Name, and I can have a special election and appoint someone else, anyone else. Jesus Christ. All this is to him try to protect me for what? All right, so of course, her being the narcissism she is, she thinks this is all about her. She asks Dukes if that is what she wanted to come out of this. Um, yeah, if you get caught up in this nonsense and you're only concerned about how this make you look and not my allegations, then I just don't give a damn what happens to you. Period. So it's not like No Name is paying little girls bills or something. So she was never obligated to do any of this. She tends to defend, you know, the most evil, vile individuals, but yet somehow failed to read numbers and math, words with more than two syllables, dogged out Lori Lightfoot and everybody else in between. But you want to sit here and go out your way to defend No Name of all people in any situation. Ugh. All right, Miss Dukes indicated that she did not want to hurt little girl or ruin the projects little girl had undertaken as former mayor and supervisor. The girl specifically told Dukes in front of Officer Miles that she would take care of it and or handle it, and that Miss Dukes should trust her. Anyone that just says that right out, knowing she's lied so much, no, I don't. No one owes her trust. Shortly thereafter, former mayor supervisor called Siggy Kamal Woods. On info and belief, Mr. Woods is little girl boyfriend who's still married. Mr. Woods came to the meeting place and met with Miss Dukes, who relayed all of the same info to Mr. Woods. Officer Miles was not in the room when Siggy and Dukes spoke. Why? You set up this meeting and then you leave the meeting when Siggy come in the room? Like he's somebody. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just gonna just kind of I'm on page 9. I gotta get through this. I'm just gonna kind of hit a couple statements in each paragraph here. Dukes did not believe that the married boyfriend was a village and or township employee and was uncertain how he figured into little girl's plans, but she trusted little girl when she said she would take care of it and thus open up to Siggy, which I would have never done. After the meeting between Siggy and Dukes, Siggy approached Officer Miles, made some comments about the situation, then said something to the effect that none of this would have come up if it was not for Officer Miles. Miles was uncertain if Siggy meant that in a positive or negative way. And no, it was negative. Ramifications to Dukes for reporting what occurred. Of course, within days of the meeting, Dukes was advised she was being placed on leave, although she did not request it, and advised she should take some time off because, reasons. She learned shortly thereafter the leave was not paid leave and that someone designated it as unpaid leave under FMLA, although she never requested FMLA. So here's another whole federal law that Super Stupid has completely violated. And you got these dumbass goons still trying to figure out what law has she broken? Yeah, we're just gonna leave the goons and the trolls underneath that nasty bridge and the YouTube gutters. Or in space, wherever their mind is. Because this is just the highest level of delusion. If you think she has not done something wrong by herself, what trustee egged on Super Stupid to do this? Name the trustee that participated in her violating the FMLA law. Just give me one example. I'll even take just a video clip. So as you can see, here's one of these situations where the fault lies solely with Super Stupid and not the trustees. They did not tell her to say or do any of this bullshit. She did this by herself with Siggy. Point blank. So here's a whole ass law that she violated in this court document that these goons can't decipher to save their lives because none of them went to law school. Neither did I, but at least take time to report and research. Good grief. When Duke subsequently asked if she could return to work, she was stonewalled for a period and then ultimately told she could not return without a doctor advising it was appropriate. So she did go to the hospital, right? Am I reading that correct? It does say up here that he did take her to the hospital. So wouldn't the documents you get from that hospital visit be enough? Because if that's what you want, then that's the medical documentation you get. You don't get anything beyond that. This is insanity. I wonder if HIPAA laws were violated as well, trying to demand a letter from a doctor. Jesus. Ms. Dukes inquired about what sort of doctor this would require and what any supposed note would need to say. Uh, Duke's inquiries were not returned. She was effectively terminated from both Thornton and Dolton. She's been unable to find comparable employment since her termination. The ramifications to Officer Miles. So once again, they came back. He was, of course, a part of the security detail, returned to patrol duty. He was subjected to a host of retaliatory actions for speaking truthfully and coming forward as a witness of what he believed was either as harassment and exploitation of Ms. Dukes, a hostile work environment, or possibly criminal conduct, although the police were not notified. By way of example, after being demoted to patrol duty while at the Dolton Police Station doing a report, now y'all see why I keep saying Dolton Police Department needs to be overhauled. Now all of a sudden, you got people actually wanting the heat to be taken off Dolton Police Department. Make that make sense again? That's insanity to expect Dolton Police Department, of all the shenanigans, unlawful, inappropriate, disgusting, vile, and egregious things that the Dolton Police Department has done to wreak havoc in the village of Dolton. And I'm not even saying all of the officers are bad. I'm simply saying that the morale and the atmosphere, the issues, the lawsuits that they have been involved in is definitely worth evaluating whether a overhaul is valid and merited. So, how many more lawsuits do they have to catch before, people start kind of waking up to the concept that they need to be overhauled? Now, some of you all have said that in comments in my videos, but I'm speaking specifically to the current mayor now, the chief of police he appointed, and the trustees. There has to be some sort of game plan to try to overhaul that police department. Otherwise, the public is not going to have trust or faith in Dolton Police Department, except the ones who may have had a conscience and did the right thing at least twice. But if they're all in cahoots on doing the most vile and evil and unlawful dumb crap you can think of, then who do you know to trust? So you can start with the chief you just appointed and then let the chief say, listen, we're going to work our way down here and we're going to try to revitalize this police department. The public has the right to have some level of trust in law enforcement. And if you can't get some level of protection from law enforcement, then you just screwed. I just, they're like the first line of defense when it comes to the protection and compliance of law here. And if no one can trust this police department, at least the average, well over average person there cannot trust the police department, then you have that first line of defense when it comes to protection and enforcement of laws is just severed. And people are going to take them as a joke. So that's one of the reasons why it needs to be overhauled. That's my 2 cents on that. And I don't think anyone should just say, because I'm very ecstatic and excited about the things that Jason House and the trustees are going to do. However, it should not be something that people are afraid to voice when it comes to those types of matters. Dolton Police Department needs an overhaul. No one should be afraid to say that. And if you need more reasons to believe they should, Google all the lawsuits filed against them, all the wrongful death, excessive force, false tickets. Just read and research on that. All right, let's move on. By way of example, they demoted him. Um, Officer Miles noticed a member of the girl's security detail bringing in leftover food from one of her events earlier that day, something that was customary when Officer Miles attempted to make small talk with the officer on the little girl detail. While he was bringing in the food, Officer Miles was advised that members of the detail were told they cannot and shall not communicate with Miles by directive from the pettiest heifer on earth. By way of further example, at Dolton's Halloween event, he was told that he needed to attend by one of his superiors. It was Miles' day off, but he attended as ordered. It was his day off, but he still showed up. Ugh. While handing out candy and indoor generally participating in the Halloween event, Miles and No Name saw each other at the event. No words were exchanged, but No Name quickly got on his phone. Very shortly after, Officer Miles was told that LaGirl would be in attendance as well and that he needed to leave and serve a patrol function. It was his day off. He didn't need to do any of that. And since when does anyone in the mayoral position have the ability to command the police officer but not the police chief? What the hell's going on? Officer Miles advised his superior that he did not have any he did not have his duty weapon, that he was unprepared for patrol duty as it was his day off, and that he did not know why he had to leave. Miles was ordered to leave, which he did. Miles subsequently notified another of his superiors what happened, suggested there was a concerted effort to keep him away from No Name and Nasty Man. Miles communicated this belief by text. Miles' superior told him he would be contacted by the department. Did not know if this meant his complaint would be communicated to the appropriate personnel or if this was being turned on him to somehow serve as a negative employment action. And I'm just going to go on a limb to say it was the latter. Following day, Miles was notified by members of command staff that he was required to attend a meeting with leadership and that he needed to bring his work credentials, police badge, and work ID. Such a request customarily comes when an officer is to be relieved of duty temporarily or permanently. Miles reached out to his union rep, who indicated she would inquire. Miles advised the union rep that he intended to file retaliation charges against DPD, took adverse employment against him. If they were to take adverse employment action against him, Miles was subsequently advised by his union rep that she communicated his info to the department and that he would receive an oral reprimand for the manner in which he communicated with his superior by text and that he did not need to turn over his work credentials. Are you serious? So, unless he was on his government issue phone, which would be understandable, you don't text personal things like that on a work phone. But at the end of the day, was it his work phone or his personal phone? If it's his personal phone and he sent it to his superior's personal phone, then why would anyone care? That becomes their private conversation here. So you're gonna give an oral reprimand because he sent the text, but didn't ask how was this text sent and on what device. Ugh. By way of further examples, Miles was thereafter subjected to criticism, unlike his peers, for various behaviors, such as not writing enough tickets, remaining on a duty roster for another municipality. But yet and still, she had people in place in the village of Dolton and Thornton Township, and she herself served in two different roles at the same time simultaneously. But narcissism knows no boundaries, and they certainly do not understand the idea or concept of hypocrisy. They just don't. They don't care. Um, so of course, I'm just gonna skim over. On or around January 124, he was involved in an incident. Suspected collided with Miles' police vehicle during a car arrest, causing Miles significant injuries. He had significant pain in his neck and back and was taken to an emergency room where he was placed on injured off duty leave. The ER indicated he could not return to duty for 3 days until January 4. In the interim, Miles made an appointment with his PCP, which was to take place on January 8th. January 4, he was contacted by his superior, told he needed to report to work in just over 1 hour, wrote back to his superior, advised him that he was on IOD leave and that further, January 4th was his regular day off. He asked his superior if he was aware of these facts and whether he still wanted Miles to return to work. His superior said yes. Miles reported to work at the designated time, even though he was in significant pain or on pain meds and it was his day off. Man, they are just evil. The superior advised him that he could sit at a desk and perform light duty work. Never mind the law that says that he has the right to have a day off. This is so petty. You got somebody coming in, had an accident, they're injured, went to the ER, was placed on leave, and you still want them to come to work while they're actually on leave? Wouldn't that be illegal? You on IOD leave, which is still paid leave, but you want them to come in and work? Wouldn't they just want the opposite of this? And I guarantee you, they didn't pay him for the actual hours he worked because of the leave. But yet they didn't care about it when they wanted him to come up, show up to work. Oh, child. All right. It was evident there was no emergency or exigent circumstance requiring him to return to work. Sometimes sitting in the chair, Miles found himself in significant pain. The chief of police asked him how he was doing, and Miles advised him, "Not well." Chief responded, "Oh, you're fine. You'll be all right." While making a dismissive gesture. Yeah, good luck to trying to justify that nonsense in court, former police chief. They better call him in as a witness. Summon his ass. I don't care. More time passed, pain increased to the point where Miles had to be taken from the station to the ER. Miles was advised by medical professionals at the hospital not to return to work until January 9th. So now they're just ignoring doctors' recommendations, but yet they wanted Fania Dukes to bring in the doctor's letter before they terminated her. But a doctor's note is not good enough from Officer Miles. Oh, the hypocrisy. January 8th, he saw his PCP, who examined Miles, indicated he cannot return to active duty until January 23, 24, and also referred Miles to a neurologist. The same day, Miles provided his superiors with a letter stating the same from his physician. So he gave them a doctor's letter. On January 9, 24 at approximately 5:16 p.m., Miles was advised by his command staff, "You have an appointment with the company doctor tomorrow at 10 a.m." Miles was provided with an address and told verbally that if he did not go to the appointment, it could be very bad for him. Why is stuff like that being done verbally? Put that shit in writing. You want to impress me and try to scare me? Put that in writing. See how well that goes. Stop having verbal communication with some of these shady ass people up there. Because they say this stuff verbally, and then when something happens, oh, it's well, they must have understood me, or basically just flat out lie and say, "I didn't say that." That is no different than a verbal agreement with a contractor. Don't do it. Get it in writing. So he was still in pain. Miles complied, went to the appointment made by his superiors. Never mind his PCP. Miles was sent home by the clinic with a letter stating they could not see him based on the note provided from his PCP. Both Dukes and Miles timely filed complaints against defendants, as previously stated, along with Little Girl with the Illinois Department of Human Rights, and timely notified the department of their intention to opt out of the department's process and pursue their claims before this court. Count 1, violation of the Illinois Human Rights Act. So they realleged paragraphs 1 through 86 and 87. At all times, relevant times herein, there was in effect in Illinois the Illinois Human Rights Act 775 ILCS /2 dash 101. And then, of course, they go into the legal definition of that act. It defines as harassment, of course, additional civil rights violations under Articles 2, 4, 5, and 5A. It is a civil rights violation for a person or for two or more persons to conspire to retaliate, especially when you are, reporting something that has occurred that is unethical, illegal, and definitely immoral. Let's see. I'm just kind of scrolling down so you guys can see the full lawsuit. And once again, like I said, this is available online to the public. So they have aiding and abetting, coercion, aid, abet, compel, or coerce a person to commit any violation of this act. Yep. As a result of Duke's providing notice of the sexual harassment, assault, retaliation she experienced, she has suffered the loss of her employment and subsequent damages, including mental anguish, in violation of the Illinois Human Rights Act, for which plaintiff Dukes requests back pay, front pay, punitive damages, attorney's fees, and typically post judgment interest, expenses and costs, and any and all further relief permitted by law. Count two, assault and battery. So let's see. They reallege paragraphs 1 through 85. No name intentionally contacted her, touched the body of Dukes in an unwanted fashion without her consent or knowledge. No name behavior caused Dukes a reasonable apprehension of imminent offensive contact, which ultimately occurred. As a result, Dukes has suffered substantial physical and emotional harm. Count three, civil remedies for non-consensual dissemination of private sexual images act. So they reallege paragraphs 1 through 85. Then they quote the civil remedies for non-consensual dissemination of private images act, which is the state statute code here, 740 ILCS 190/1, abbreviated to be PSIA. That's what we're going to refer to it as. And then it gives the definition of PSIA. And that's basically when it comes to releasing images, especially when there is no consent. They call it revenge or hate S word or, P word, when you do something like that with the intent to humiliate or shame them, or the perception of that is it comes off like he's hoarding this over her head, sort of thing. You put something like that out there and you're doing it to just humiliate him and embarrass him. So there was no reason to even do that. It was bad enough he called somebody and bragged about this nasty nonsense. He, of course, she never consented to the transmission of said images and was identifiable to Officer Miles in transmission. And then it also goes into further definition of PSIA. They speak on the damages caused, even under emotional distress. Statutory damages not to exceed 10,000 against each defendant found liable under this act. So they basically speak on how they determine damages under this law, which is a state law. And then, of course, they are reiterating what they're asking for in the judgment. Count 4, violation of the Illinois Human Rights Act against Officer Miles. And it's just kind of a repeat what they stated for that same count with Fania. And then, of course, they reiterate, the retaliation, because he basically witnessed, harassment retaliation, and he reported it. He was demoted, passed over for promotion, subjected to reprimands that he should not have called in from IOD leave, called in on his days off, purely to harass him, just bullying stuff. So then, of course, wherefore, both plaintiffs respectfully request of the Honorable Court grant plaintiffs back pay, front pay, and they just go down the list of the damages, of course. And that is it. The attorney that filed this is Robert D. Sweeney. I'm curious to know if he's still representing both of them. But this is the full complaint. I want to kind of skim over the next complaint briefly. I apologize, you all. This is a long one, but is a goodie. So let's look at the case overview regarding the second victim that came forth. Her name is Asha Gant. This filing date was just this year, January 30th, 2025. You guys can look up, this case if you want on Trellis Law. This is an intentional tort with a jury demand for it. I've never heard of Asha Gant, to be quite honest. I had to get this document. I have not gone over everything regarding this, but you guys can see, you know, there's some significant documents that's been filed so far. And then you have the case activity. There was a hearing May 13th, which was continued for a case management conference. Ugh. Like these cases just have no movement. There are exhibits. You guys can see there exhibits were submitted on April 3rd, 2025. So let's get to. I'm sorry, I was sharing the wrong screen. All right, here's the case information on Trellis. It's kind of an overview, and then you guys can, like I said, see all the documents, the exhibits. There are exhibits filed, and then of course the activity here. Last hearing being May 13th, 25. So let's kind of go over Ash again. And then I want to pull up something that I've been, you know, I found that it was interesting, especially when it comes to, the idea of cameras being everywhere in Las Vegas. So I wanted to kind of look that up to see what I could see on Google Maps. So, of course, this is Asha Gant versus No Name and Morrison Security Corporation. There's a jury demand. What's the case number? It's cut off for me. Oh boy. Okay, I'm trying to find the case number right. Oh, here it is. Case number 2025 L is in love 001364. All right. So the jurisdiction and venue is appropriate based on um, the petitioner's residence, or whether typically it's like a criminal matter is where the crime was committed, but seeing this is civil procedures, it would be more than likely based on her residence. So she is a legal adult. She resides in Cook County, Illinois. Um, no Name is a legal adult. On Belief is a resident of Cook County. Where is he? Like what county is he in? Okay, and then it says, of course, bear with me 1 second. Computer freezing. No, no, no. Okay. Okay, and at relevant times, this is what I'm trying to get to here. Point number 5. So he's a legal adult on the belief he is a resident of Cook County, Illinois, and at relevant times is the perpetrator of the acts of S battery upon Asha. So defendant MSC is a corporation and it's got the file number under Secretary of State 60576688. Statement of facts. All right. This is going back to 2014. Plaintiff was ongoing victim of human S trafficking and kidnapping. Wow. No Name, as a part of his work for MSC, participated in an operation with other MSC investigators and staff that rescued plaintiff from S trafficking and placed her into therapy and treatment. As part of the rescue operation, defendant gained the trust of plaintiff and developed what, in plaintiff's view, was a caring and close relationship. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? Because right now, what I'm saying is almost a recant of what Fania Dukes put in her lawsuit. So you have No Name that sits and becomes close and personal with these women, and then betrays their trust. That's why I wonder if this was some level of grooming. Now you have a second victim or survivor rather, um, that he befriended and tried to be seen like some sort of a caring relative, and then just kind of goes in out of nowhere on this nonsense and take advantage of people. This is two people so far. On April 2015, Ashley was staying with her grandmother in her home on Chicago's South Side following her return from treatment under the auspices of checking on um, Ashley's well being following her return from treatment. Defendant expressed an interest in seeing Ashley set up a visit through Ashley's grandmother. Defendant represented Ashley's mother and grandmother that he was following up on her as a part of his work for MSC. After notifying her mother grandmother, Holmes met Asha. No Name met Asha at her grandmother's home and took her for a ride north of Lakeshore Drive, all under basically the impression he was checking up on her well being, which he wasn't. Defendant drove her to a parking lot near Lincoln and Foster, driving the same Crown Victoria he used for work with MSC. So now you have a vehicle involved that is connecting you to this. Defendant had the same security badge around his neck he used to work for, used for his work with MSC. He carried a firearm, and he wore the same leather jacket and dark slacks that he wore on prior occasions when he was involved with rescuing Asha and working with her as a part of his work with MSC. Does this organization give him the ability to carry a firearm and a badge like a police officer? Was he a security officer? What was he? And then he had a badge and a firearm? And then he wearing the same clothes over and over again. Jesus Christ. Ashley was not able to distinguish him during his visit from No Name she previously encountered. At all times, Ashley was under the belief that No Name was visiting her as a part of his investigation and security work for MSC. Indeed, the visit resembled prior instances where she had encountered him during the ride and in the parking lot near Lincoln and Foster. No Name asked Ashley general questions about her past, whether she missed working the street, what her plans for the future were, and how she was feeling with her life. Man, this is so disgusting. He is the worst. He is the absolute worst. After getting Asha into a relaxed state, No Name offered Asha marijuana out of the glove compartment. Why he walking around with a firearm and a badge? Sounding as if he's impersonating a police officer here. Goodness gracious. Asha felt she could not refuse him after offer of marijuana because she was so insistent. Because he was so insistent. I'm sorry. He was so insistent, and because the situation reminded her of her past trafficking experience where she would do whatever her more powerful captor said as part of her feelings of survival. After using the drug, Asha became extremely relaxed and recounts feeling disarmed, pliable, and agreeable. In particular, the drug made Asha feel more pliable than she had ever experienced before, and at that time, she wondered if the marijuana had been laced. After further idle chat, No Name exposed his private part to Asha and indicated with a nod of his head that he wanted her to perform oral S word. He is gross as hell. Did anybody trying to merely defend this? You don't have a soul either. I can't take you seriously. Mm-mm-mm. Oh my God. So he basically did this targeting her, knowing that she has been involved in S trafficking and he took advantage of it. What kind of nonsense is this? I would have got out the car. You even, I'm gonna get out. Bye. Asha felt she had no choice and returned to the same survival state of mind she had during her trafficking experience, where she would simply react without thinking and without emotion in order to protect herself and to survive. Feeling like she had no choice and due to her survival mode and state of mind from the drug he had given her, Asha did as he directed. Following the S assault in the car, Holmes drove, no name drove the two of them to the Diplomat Motel at 5230 North Lincoln Avenue, Chicago, obtained a room, removed all his clothes, placed his gun pointedly on top of the pile of his clothes where she could see it, and then proceeded to R-word her. All of the foregoing events occurred when she was 16. What the hell? 16 years old. So now you're dealing with a minor? I told you I have not gone over this. I knew there was a second victim and I looked it up. I actually searched by his name in the Cook County Circuit Court um, case information. So this came up. So count one, S battery. Plaintiff realleges the preceding paragraphs 1 through 26. In Illinois, the elements of civil battery are an intentional act on the part of the defendant resulting in offensive contact with plaintiff's person and a lack of consent to defendant's conduct. And in a half case law cited McNeil v. Brewer. This was an appellate case from 1999. At all times, defendant intentionally and without Asha's consent forced her to perform or S-word upon him. He intentionally, without her consent, R-word her at the Diplomat Motel. She was 16 years old and incapable of giving her legal consent to any form of S contact. At all times, he conducted his conduct towards Asha was grossly offensive to Asha. It would be grossly offensive to the average individual with a soul and a brain. Asha has suffered actual injuries as a result of his S battery and R word upon her in the form of psychological distress, anxiety, fear, anger, sleeplessness, low self esteem, self loathing, the inability to enjoy normal human romantic relationships, and reliving of the abuse on a regular and frequent basis. Goodness. Then they go into the next count, negligent retention and supervision of no name. The real-edge paragraphs 1 through 34, I think, or 1 through 20. Hold on. I think it's 1 through 26. Yep, 1 through 26. This is something else. Paragraph 35, it has been long held that employees have a duty to act reasonably in hiring and retaining employees. They cite case law v. Van Horn v. Muller. And this is a case from 1988. As such, Illinois law allows for claims against companies for negligent hiring, supervision, and retention of employees. This is insanity. There has to be more than 2 survivors out here as a result of he who will not be named bullshit. I would be hard pressed to believe that these are the only 2 victims here, because he seems to have a pattern of behavior with this nonsense where he befriends them, makes them feel like family. Asha Gant was 16 when the alleged incident occurred. 16 years old. And mind you all, this lawsuit was filed earlier this year, January 30th. Goodness gracious. Poor child. All right. To establish account for negligent supervision, the plaintiff must show the employer knew or should have known that the employee had a particular unfitness for the position to create, as to create a danger of harm to third persons, that such particular unfitness was unknown or should have been made known at the time of employee's hiring or retention, and that this particular unfitness proximately caused the plaintiff's injury. And then they have case law cited Skywalker Outdoor Inc. v. Van Wagner Communications LLC. This went to the appellate court in 2011. Asha may also recover on a claim for negligent retention, and then they have Dovey Coe, COE, and this is a case for 2019. And then they give more additional information regarding um, case law referencing the child S abuse and state statutes. And of course, they added on a couple of additional case law here. And this is helpful for you guys to understand how the law defines certain terms and to help justify the allegation itself. So, as you all can see that, please feel free to pause it if you need to read. But this is what it is here. All right. May 23, 2019, our Illinois Supreme Court has held that in the church context, it is foreseeable and likely that a youth group member could be harmed by a failure to act reasonably in hiring, supervising, and retaining a director of youth ministries. And this is in the case cited Dovey Code 2019. At all times relevant, defendant was an employee of MSC. At all times, she was unaware that he was an employee. She was aware that No Name was an employee of MSC because he had been part of the operation that rescued her from trafficking and kidnapping the prior year. At the time of their encounter set forth herein, she observed No Name to be dressed in the same manner. They kind of reiterate that from the background information. Let's see here. Defendant held himself out as acting in the employment of MSC when he lied Asher with marijuana in his vehicle, displayed his private to her, and insisted she performed or escort upon him, and then subsequently R-word her at the hotel. He's just taking advantage of these women like this. He gets women that are just already, may have some, things going on. I'm not quite sure if, Fania's ever had anything like that to happen to her, but you're talking about a minor in this case that was a actual victim of S trafficking at 16. That's a lot for a child to have to go through. And you got morons trying to defend him? Kick rocks. Defendant was unfit to be working with minor females as a part of his job with MSC, in that he had a proclivity to take advantage of young females he encountered in the course of his work, including Asha. At all times, MSC was aware that No Name had marked curiosity toward minor women, that he had fostered close working relationships with minor women, and another employee of MSC, Carlos Rodriguez, had flagged him to MSC's president, John M. Morrison, as an individual who should not be allowed to work with minor women without supervision. So an employee of MSC told the damn president of MSC, John Morrison, the president, that No Name should not be allowed to work with minor women without supervision. That clearly shows a pattern of behavior. An even bigger question, what does Carlos Rodriguez have to lose by flagging him to the president of the company? He had nothing to lose. So I'm more inclined to believe he did this with good intentions and to protect these young women, especially minors. This is what happens when you don't take action. Now let's see how fast this so-called MSC president shows up in court to testify. Indeed, on Info and Belief, MSC at all times had a policy that its employees are not supposed to meet with victims and clients by themselves. He violated a whole policy. Ugh. Who's At all times, MSC should have known that he was unfit to occupy his position and that he presented a danger to minor females. At all times, MSC's tolerance of and willful blindness to No Name's proclivities towards minor women was the proximate cause of Asher's injuries. By the foregoing conduct, MSC negligently supervised him. MSC negligently retained him, despite MSC's awareness of his potential harm for harm to young women and victims he would encounter. She suffered actual injuries as a result of MSC supervision and retention. Oh man. And then of course, they have the mental and emotional, psychological distress. Plus, if there were any physical injuries as well from the R word, that, oh my God. Now, this is sad to see. It really is. Based on the foregoing, plaintiff requests that this court enter a judgment in her favor against No Name and order all appropriate relief, including damages in an amount to be determined by a jury. It's filed by Cassie Casper, attorney for Asha Gant. And then you guys can see the attorney information. Where's the barcode number? Where's the bar license number? I don't see that on here. And typically you do. You see like the bar license number next to their name. And then of course the next document is like a verification saying that you attest and affirm that statements are to your belief true um, under the penalty of perjury. And then you guys can see the law pursuant to section 1-109 of the Code of Civil Procedure. So this is a standard across the board. In any state, especially dealing with civil procedures, you have to have verification or some sort of affidavit to confirm what you're alleging in the complaint itself. Oh man, as you all can see, this is a pattern of behavior here. This is a pattern of behavior with nasty men that somehow is still being overlooked by not only, you know, currently right now, the clean house campaign here. Well, let me not say campaign because they won. With the mayor and the trustees, they all know that this case exists. And if they don't, then I'm sure they're watching my video and now they found out. But there is no way this was filed in January of this year. I refuse to believe that they did not know this case existed between January 30th and as of today, May 22nd, because he's still a damn trustee. And we have to make a fuss. I know I was one of them. Just to advocate for him to be removed from the damn committee assignment. He should have never been assigned to the committees. Period. Pass a resolution. Pass an ordinance. Make sure this never happens again. Let this be a learning lesson here. Man, this is disturbing. She was 16. I have a 16-year-old son. But man, let me tell y'all something. I just, the worst thing is she had already been through some of the most cruel parts and aspects of humanity when it comes to trafficking as a child. And then went to get treatment, came back, resided with her mother and grandmother. And then he comes and does this. This is the second lawsuit now where you have similar accusations being brought forth. And it's just disgusting. I'm wondering if he called somebody after doing this to Ash again. Based on what she alleged. I'm curious to know if he called and notified anybody after this evil act allegedly committed here. And if he had a work phone, that could be FOIA. Be honest with you. This is something else. Okay. I wanted to kind of um, look up the on Google Maps the actual hotel in Las Vegas that Super Stupid took all these people to. Hold on one second, and y'all bear with me. I appreciate you all for tuning in. By the way, I know it was a lot of reading, but reading is fundamental. Plus, you know, this is how you start to see some level of foundation being laid. Now you have two cases like this where he's allegedly forcing himself on people, and then in one incident, he called and bragged about it, and even went so far as to start FaceTiming a sworn commissioned police officer. Unbelievable. Oh my God. You guys can let me know what you think. I don't understand people even trying to defend him. You gotta be just a dumb goon that's soulless, brainless, heartless, and completely devoid of any empathy or compassion whatsoever. Just devoid of it. To think that this was okay. And then to try to defend him in any manner. Criminal charges aren't the only way for him to suffer some penalty and punishment. This matter is going through another court of law, it's just under a different proceeding. It does not have to be a criminal matter in order for him to be found guilty of a charge or an allegation. And who knows? What if they both win their, and I'm sure they have a strong chance of winning here. But let's say they win their cases, and then the AG or the DA actually decides now, okay, a jury has found you liable for damages. If there is enough evidence to show that an actual criminal act occurred, considering now that you won your civil proceedings, you know, the AG or the prosecutor could decide to still bring forth charges to the court. They could. This is insanity that anyone would try to defend this on any level. Leave him in the pits of hell where he belongs. Don't try to justify it. It never ceases to amaze me with the goons because it seems like they just do this to be antagonistic. They don't really have a point. They just kind of just disagreeing with the masses because reasons, but they can't prove exactly why. When you have two court filings now where you have similar or the same situations occurring, especially with the pattern of behavior of what I'm seeing as a type of grooming here, regardless of the ages, it's still grooming. And why these two women? Not saying he should do this at all, but what enthused him to pick these two? He's disgusting. He is disgusting. I just, I will never understand that. It's as if people are so evil and soulless that they're just willing to side with someone being accused by two separate women of doing almost or essentially the same thing. And then he still gets away with no penalty. And then still sits on the board of trustees. And then, of course, was given a committee assignment that half of us had to be in an uproar just to get them to rethink this. Disgusting. You hear anybody trying to defend him, cuss their asses out and keep living. My God. So I'm going to try to pull up Google Maps here. If you do like I'm trying to see if this is it. Sometimes if you do like an aerial view, um, you can actually see up close parts of the building or whatnot, whatever you're looking at, and you might end up catching something. So bear with me 1 second. I want to make sure that I pull up the right one. A lot of hotels in Las Vegas. I've never been to Vegas, so I'm sure it's a ton of fun. I've never been to Vegas. I would love to go one day. Y'all, you know how long I would have to save up to go to Vegas? This is something else. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let me share this screen. Why am I okay? Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get a better image. This is a little blurry. It's so blurry. Oh man, I pull up one and it's blurry. Okay, hold on 1 second. I just want to kind of get. Oh man, this is okay. Just want to kind of wrap this up with the Google Maps. If you guys can see here, this is in front of Planet Hollywood Hotel. Y'all see here, Planet Hollywood Las Vegas Resort. Um, and you guys can see this is the front of the hotel itself. Okay, it's nice. I don't think that I've ever seen a bad looking Planet Hollywood hotel. And then we have one here in Atlanta downtown. Um, but this is very nice. Okay, this is a very very nice hotel. If you guys can see, kind of like I'm just spanning out a little bit, um, so you can see more of the exterior. So this is image captured in January 2025. So this is a more recent view of the hotel itself. Now I want y'all to focus your attention on this here. If you can see the little box that I have here. This is just one of the columns. You guys see that right there? That's a camera. This is a camera right here. So, you know, I've asked so many times, why is it that the camera footage is not on display? I don't, why hasn't the camera footage been pulled? That's just one of the cameras. Look at this. Y'all see this area up here? These are cameras right here. Where you see the little hovering box I have here. These are cameras. This is just the outside. I guarantee you there are cameras on the inside as well. I guarantee you that. This is what baffles me. You have this all these cameras in this nice hotel. And we're just looking at the outside here. Here's the entrance to Planet Hollywood, to the hotel. Cameras. Camera, 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 camera. Cameras at the doors. Cameras on the sides. Camera. You guys have to remember Las Vegas is like a tourist spot. So people go there to vacation. Just like Disney World. You got all of these, expensive ass restaurants and stuff around. I'm shocked to see the hotel price and was like $59 a night. But you see here, this is the entrance. And you have cameras. So my question has been for a while, you know, how did she get her room and they didn't get caught on a camera here? Even if they were inside of the hotel itself, like in the bar having a drink, y'all look at this. Get some of the shops around. If they were walking around the strip, you're not gonna be able to get away with walking around unless you have a mask and a hat, nothing that reveals your skin or anything. You're not gonna be able to get away with walking around and not get caught on the camera. Y'all look at this is the entrance to the hotel here. Look at this. You have these little shopping stores. Of course they have cameras. My issue is, you know, how do they not get captured? Y'all see people here, they blurred out the faces and whatever. That's fine. But you captured on a camera in the public. So I don't understand with these cameras around here. And I'm sure they had cameras on the inside. I'm sure they had cameras on each floor, near the elevators, all entry, exit points. They have a plethora of cameras around. And not just at this hotel. I mean, look around. You're gonna have cameras. You got cameras in the street light. That's how sophisticated we are with advanced technology. There are cameras in the street lights. Because if you go around speeding or you violate a traffic, you commit a traffic violation, your ass gonna get a ticket. You might not get pulled over, but you damn sure gonna be mailed one at least. There are too many cameras around for no one to have seen he who will not be named and Fania Dukes, anywhere, especially if they went outside. And even the more on the inside. They would have been caught on many, many, many cameras. So where are those camera footages? I just wanted to show you all this because, it's just insanity how yeah, first of all, I just hate the fact that there were no criminal charges even pursued. One and two, I think it's shoddy ass police work. If you couldn't even bother as a part of your preliminary investigation to get the hotel footage, the video footage from all of these damn cameras around. Wherever they went, there had to be at least one camera that caught them. That's the crazy part. At least it would show that they were at some point alone together. And if at any point she was outside feeling, you know, beside herself, not able to really control what's going on with her body, even down to the point where she may not have been able to walk straight or stand upright. I mean, that would be on a camera if she was inside or outside this hotel. Like I said, they got cameras on the inside. Y'all, this is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. So, he who will not be named is a disgusting creature from hell. And he got his coming. He's gonna face some wrath from God one day. And it's just gonna be all hitting and at all one time. No one should be defending him in the least bit. He should not be a trustee. He certainly should never ever be a thought to be on a committee. And now that Super Stupid isn't around and somehow he wants to show up for shit, wouldn't this be a good time for him to have to give a statement? Because he doesn't owe Super Stupid anything. But yet he's such a coward, he believes he does. This has been, yeah. Oh, I wanted to kind of just show that and make sure I had, at least the lawsuit of Asha Gant as well. And now you guys can see this pattern of behavior. You know, befriending, trying to get close to someone. That's all the attributes of grooming. And it's just disgusting and deplorable how depraved he is. So that's all I have here. I thank you all for tuning in, especially bearing with me while I try to pull up some of this stuff, you know, starting from the beginning with this audio to being able to see this hotel and actually be able to put eyes around it to see all those cameras up, you guys, it's just this whole situation was handled so badly between the officer not saying something sooner, the super stupid and Siggy being the dumbasses that they are, and he who will not be named that's a walking void in life with no soul. This has, there's no way this has not affected Fania Dukes and the other survivor, Ash again. And I really hope that Fania is able to catch wind of this video. Please reach out to me at LadyLuckClubLLC at yahoo.com. I would love to have you on Fania Dukes and give you a platform and let your voice be heard. There are some of us who genuinely care, and we have not forgotten about you. And your case is still ongoing in court. And, you know, he's a coward. He doesn't even want to show up for hearings. He's a coward. And I think, and this is just my opinion, that he who will not be named also contacted Super Stupid. Because I've never seen her try to go out her way for somebody like that. This is not the first time she's gone out of her way for someone that's so depraved. She went out of her way to defend the Dolton police officers when it came to the young lady that lost her life, Alexis Wilson. And yes, I am using that situation as a comparison to show the aptitude of Super Stupid being willing to defend those who really should not be defended. And yet, she fired Fania Dukes. She allowed retaliation to happen to Officer Miles. And no one sees anything wrong with this. What trustee was she motivated by to do this again? To the goons. Since they want to keep coupling her to these trustees on everything she does. Nope. Not this one. The hell you will. So, you guys make sure you hit the like button. This was a bit lengthy, but if you put it on 1.5 speed, I promise you it'll be even more entertaining. Thank you guys so much. The Keep McNugget Price video is doing very, very well. Please share these videos, share this information. You guys know that I'm working a full-time, regular job. So, I'm trying my best to stay on top of the content. I appreciate all of you for tuning in. I'm going to premiere this as soon as it's done because I want you guys to be able to just tune in and check this out. And I'm going to go over the Dolton firefighters lawsuit as well as Samisha Williams. And shout out to Babe Solo, who sent me a case to look at regarding Robert Hunt in particular. I got it. And we're going to go over that. So, you guys, make sure you take care of yourselves. Hit the like button, subscribe, become a member today. Consider becoming a member if you would like to donate to the Lady Luck Club for, the resources that I utilize here to keep the channel going. StreamYard, Xfinity. A couple people want me to get YouTube Premium. It does take resources, and of course, and I don't mind, posting up, invoices if need be, but I had to get some documents out of Pacer, and I want to be able to present this information to you all so you guys can have an understanding of what's really going on and why I refuse to dignify these people's existence by even saying their name. They're deplorable. So either way, make sure you guys have a good evening. Take care of yourselves. Please, Fania Dukes, reach out to me, email me. And until the next one, you guys have a good night. Later, look out. Deuces.